Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and non-binary friends. Welcome to the very first episode of a series that has never been done on YouTube before.
Stop it.
Totally original.
Stop it.
And not at all, I repeat, not at all plagiarized. At all.
Stop it. Get some help.
So basically in this series what we do is we take two different IPs or concepts and pit them against one another. I'm your disheveled host Shoham Bhattacharya, aka Kolkata Book Nerd, and this is Which is Better. So lately I have been racking my brain thinking, what should I talk about on this channel? Then I thought, why not talk about the same books that I have reviewed earlier, like Low Effort, right? Namely, Jaws by Peter Benchley and Meg by Steve Alten. Now, let it be known that Jaws the movie knocks out Meg the movie cold within the first 5 seconds of the match. So there's no comparison at all. But when it comes to the book, is it the same? Let's talk about that. So guys, the reason I look a tad bit different because just as I finished my intro, my mother kind of appeared out of nowhere and forced me to go for a haircut and a clean shave. So apologies if I now appear a little less disheveled. Okay. Before we get into the minutiae of it all, I would like to segregate this review into 4 parts. First, the origin. Second, book against book. Third, movie against movie. And fourth and the last, movie against the book. Let's call it Shoham's Quadrant of Sadness, inspired from the Swanson Pyramid of Greatness, which everyone should adhere to, by the way. That's just a suggestion. So without any further delays, let's just get into our first segment, Origins. Let's talk about Jaws first. The writer of Jaws, Peter Benchley, had an affinity for the shark and all things nautical from an early age. In the early 70s, Benchley, a budding writer at the time, was struggling to make ends meet and to support his family and wife and children, so to speak. He would frequently pitch nautical themed ideas to publishers and would occasionally face rejection. Now when I think about it, it's just like my Tinder history. Yeah. However, in 1971, he came up with this first draft, or so to say, the first 100 pages of a novel, which was based on an idea after Benchley saw this news report of a fisherman catching a 4,500 pound great white shark off the coast of Long Island. So, he turned in the draft to the editor at the time, Thomas Congdon, of publishing company Doubleday, who gave him an advance of $1,000 for the first 100 pages. Benchley would go on to finish the final draft 3 years later, and in 1974, the novel Jaws was published. The novel would go on to be a huge success, staying on the bestseller list for 44 weeks. The book will later go on to be adapted into a movie by then newcomer director Steven Spielberg. The origin story for Meg the novel is fairly short compared to Jaws, but it bears a weird likeness. Let me get into that. Steve Alten, a denizen of Philadelphia and an aspirant writer and a general manager at a wholesale meat plant at the time, were struggling to support his family of 5, so he decided to write a novel that he has been thinking for years. So after burning the midnight oil and working over the weekend, he eventually finished his novel Meg, a novel of deep terror. And in order to pay for his editing fees, he sold his car. In 1997, Meg was published and would go on to be this monster hit. Get it? Monster hit. Okay, I'll stop now. And would rank 19 on the New York bestsellers list. The follow-up book Trench was published in 1999 and also turned out to be a hit. A subsequent series of novels followed under the same franchise. Following the Trench would be Meg Primal Waters, Meg Hell's Aquarium, Meg's Origin, Meg Night Stalkers, Meg Generations, and Meg Purgatory, which is yet to be released. So if anyone wants to keep Jason Statham employed for a couple of years, you know where to look. Before we get into this next part, I think it goes without saying that spoilers ahead. As for the scale of the story, Jaws has a much more contained storyline compared to Meg. It basically deals with encountering a string of shark attacks in a fictitious seaside resort town called Amity on Long Island. The main economic stability of the town hinges on its summer tourism, and Police Chief Brody is doing his best to keep the beaches closed before doing something about the shark attack, so to speak. But apparently the mayor of the town wants to keep them open because we later discover in the book that he is being blackmailed by the mafia to keep the beaches open so that the real estate value of the town doesn't go down, in which mafia has invested quite a bit of money apparently. So this is where the two lock horns, and my main grouse with the book is that is about its narrative and a lot of long winding subplots that really doesn't go anywhere. First, the mafia getting involved. Second, Brody's wife instigates an affair with Hopper, which doesn't serve any purpose in the plot. Every character in this book is despicable. They all hate each other and the reader hates them. And the description of the dismemberment of the shark attack victims, Benchley tends to give these vivid descriptions of victim being torn limb by limb, which kind of made me gag. So that was a little unsettling for me. Now let me tell you why Meg is a superior book than Jaws, at least according to me. And I'm gonna bullet point this analogy. And be wary all of my 5 subscribers, spoilers ahead. The book opens with in the Cretaceous period with a Meg attacking a T-Rex, by the way. Don't know why they didn't use this footage in the movie. The characters in this book are superbly interesting, one-dimensional but quirky. You have the underachieving heroine Jonas Taylor, his cheating wife Maggie, his comeback billionaire friend Bud, who is having an affair with Maggie, Jonas' wife. You have stoic scientist Masao Tanaka and his bratty, snarky, hot daughter Terry, who is clearly not being set up as the central love interest of this book. Clearly. And above everything, you have a giant shark rampaging across the Pacific. This is pretty evident that the book was written with the hopes of it maybe getting made into a movie someday. It has 90s written all over it. That's why it's such a fast-paced popcorn thriller ride. It never has a lull moment. I kid you not, during watching the movie adaptation of this book, I dozed off like 4 times, even when there was a giant shark on the screen eating people. Yeah. Do we really have to do this? I mean, isn't it pretty evident? Okay, but you're not getting paid extra for this, by the way. There's no one on the other end of the camera. I was doing a bit. I'm sorry. Despite what I feel about the original novel Jaws, the movie was a seminal piece of work in its time. Starting from its camera work, use of practical effects, likable characters, to literally creating the summer blockbuster genre. What was Meg about? I forgot 30 minutes after I finished the movie. Like, Jason Statham was angry, really angry, and I think he punched the Meg in the eye with a harpoon. If he did, then that was a cool scene. Yeah, I'll give them that. So in conclusion, I would like to sum up my review with these 2 spicy memes. Why didn't I do that in the first place? I mean, I spent my entire weekend writing, editing and rehearsing for this video, and all I needed to do was use these 2 memes. You know what? I'm done. I'm done with this. Bye. I'll see you guys if I make another one of these stupid things. Yeah, right. Yeah, God. ও চা হয়ে গেছে।